Need a resolution or a motion dispensing with the reading of the minutes?
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first.
Second.
Councilman Bamanto with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Vowash.
Aye. Reading of the privilege of the floor regulations.
The privilege of the floor shall be extended to any person appearing for themselves, in which case that individual shall be limited to 3 minutes, and to any person representing a group who shall be limited to 5 minutes. When recognized, please stand, state your name and address. The city clerk shall have the duty of maintaining such time limits, and the councilman at large may determine in his discretion whether individuals are speaking for themselves or representing groups. Councilman at large Vowash shall maintain good order and may require any speaker to cease speaking if remarks are made in bad taste or are slanderous or non-germane to any action taken or contemplated by council. The time limit specified shall be strictly adhered to, except that a speaker may be allowed to complete a statement or thought started before such time has expired.
With that said, privilege of the floor is now open. If anybody wishes to speak, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address.
Greg Sick, 14 on Rizella Street, Dunkirk, New York. We got one question, if anybody can answer it. The old building, right, it's already been rehabbed and everything else. Does anybody know what's going in?
Which building?
The old Delphi Cable building.
I believe that building belongs now to the Hope Organization.
So it should be the drug rehab center there or whatever?
No, that's not that.
Not them? Is there any information in them or just all that's available?
No, the Hope Organization is the Hispanics Organized for Progress in Education. They've been in existence in this community for over 25 years. They have that building now. They purchased it, and I believe that they are in the process of remodeling it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seck. Which building?
Right Street, the old Delphi.
The Adelphi building. Gotcha. Okay. Grab a sec. Anybody else wishing to take advantage or privilege of the floor, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Kathy Campola, and I live at 19 Lakeview Avenue in Fredonia. I would just like to speak on the pier. It is absolutely beautiful. We rode through all the lake yesterday. Memorial Park is looking pristine. The Point Garage, it is fabulous. And Wright Park, and then you come up Central Avenue, I noticed the posts are all painted. They got the new flags are gorgeous. The hanging baskets are beautiful. But the only thing I would like to add is before the boat show, the sidewalks and the curbs really need cleaning up. All this beautiful stuff, and you look down and the streets look tight. And that's all I'd like to say, but everything is looking great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to take advantage or privilege of the floor, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address.
Hi, Jim Fisher with Revitalize Dunkirk, and I just want to bring up a few of our updates or things we're doing this month. August 7th, this Wednesday, we're going to be having I call it a pop-up BYOC, or Bring Your Own Chair Sunset Watch at the Point, along with the city's Music at the Point. So come on down with your favorite chair, whether it's your recliner, whether it's your lawn chair, bring whatever is your favorite chair and watch the sunset with us on Wednesday. And August 15th is our August Revitalize Dunkirk meeting. We meet down here at the Incubator, 214 Central Avenue. And August 18th, we're going to have our August BYOC at the Dunkirk Lighthouse. We're going to have a gentleman going through Tai Chi with us. And also there's discounted tour prices for the lighthouse. So if you've never been to the lighthouse, it's a good night to check it out. It's only $6 instead of $10 to go up to the top of the tower and check out Dunkirk from a different view. And it's a real nice view from up top there. So that's all I have, and thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for all you do with your group as well. Anybody else wishing to speak and take advantage or privilege of the floor, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address. Anybody else wishing to speak, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address. Seeing no more, privilege of the floor is now closed. Communications for the mayor, including disapproval messages. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, I have some announcements. The first one is the Beach Bash. The Beach Bash runs from August 9th through the 11th. It includes the 2019 Beach Bash at Wright Park. Please come out to see the world-renowned sand sculptor, Dan Belcher, and come out for some free live music. On Sunday, there's going to be a youth hockey tournament at Wright Park basketball courts. And we'd like to thank Community Bank and Wells Philbrook for their sponsorship to make this event a reality. I'm also pleased to inform you that the turning lanes have been completed at the appropriate intersections on Central Avenue. Our DPW department completed that work ourselves, and they did a nice job doing so. Also, the Hazelton Dog Park is open to the public. The city's Hazelton Dog Park is officially open to the public. Please come out and enjoy the park with your pets. We have a small dog side and a large dog side. We will be holding a ribbon cutting ceremony at the end of the month to celebrate and thank all of the sponsors and donors that have contributed funds to make the park a reality. At this time, we are coordinating schedules with the donors and will announce a ribbon cutting date shortly. And the update at the pier ribbon cutting ceremony. The ribbon cutting ceremony for Dunkirk's Pier will take place next Monday, August 12th at 10 a.m. at the pier. New York State Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul is scheduled to be here as our special guest to celebrate the completion of this project. I'd like to invite all city residents to come out to the pier for this special event and to see our newly enhanced city pier. The contractors are at this time putting on some finishing touches at the pier.
Yeah.
And if you haven't gone by there, you probably should. The archway is already up, and the part at the tail end for the boaters, which is going to be lighted, that's looking to be completed by the end of the week. So it's looking pretty good out there. I also have the opportunity today to recognize one of our city workers in the recycling department. On July 1st, when a young girl was heard screaming in pain due to getting her hand caught in a garage door, Chris Campbell came to the rescue. While others were doing what they could but were unable to free the young girl, Chris took over the situation. He brought calm to the scene, lifted the young girl so that others on the scene could manually lift the door, freeing her hand and fingers. Once the girl was free, Chris then helped her to her house, got ice for her hand, and left her in the care of her grandmother. While at the time of the incident and while taking charge of the situation by lifting the young girl, freeing her hand and fingers, and ensuring medical treatment was clearly in rescue mode. He was clearly in rescue mode. Once the situation was over, he again became the humble man that we all know him to be. As mayor of the city of Dunkirk, I'm extremely proud to recognize Chris Campbell. I received an email from one of our city workers telling me that she actually witnessed this whole event take place. And I have a copy of that email. I'd like to forward it to you guys so you can read it. She said that at the time the girl was really hysterical, crying and yelling, obviously in real pain. And there were others there trying to help her and couldn't free her. It wasn't until Chris came onto the scene that things were looking better and he took care of the situation. So I would like to publicly recognize Chris. I asked him to come to the meeting. Chris, if you could come up, please. Chris Campbell is awarded this certificate in recognition of his bravery and willingness to go above and beyond the call of duty to provide assistance to a young lady in distress. He provided the 5th day of August the year 2019.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Clerk, there is one communication from the mayor.
Yes, sir. Appointment of Frank Terrain of 415 Mullet Street, Dunkirk, to the Dunkirk Housing Authority Board effective August 7, 2019, term to expire July 11, 2024.
This will be received and filed. Communications from the public and petitions. This evening, we have 8 notices of claims before us, all pertaining to approximately the same event. So what we're going to do is we're going to group all 8 of them together for one motion and one roll call. And okay, I apologize. First one's different. So after we get past the first one, we're going to group 2 through 8 together for one motion, one roll call, one discussion, because there were no issues with any of them during the workshop session, and they're all just motion to the laws anyway.
Yes, sir.
So we'll start with number 1 separate, please.
Number 1, notice of summons, Judy A. Bone versus the City of Dunkirk.
Need a motion to refer this to the Law Department?
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first.
Second.
Councilman Civiletto with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voisin.
Aye. At this time, the clerk will read all of them off on an individual basis, but we're going to only have one vote at the end for them. Clerk?
Number 2, notice of claim from Carolina S. Winger of 30 Wright Park Drive for damages allegedly done to personal property due to water sewer backup on July 7, 2019 at approximately 5 a.m. Number 3, notice of claim from Brian L. Deverell of 2996 Route 39 Forestville for alleged damages to a hot water tank at 124 King Street due to backup flooding from the city sewer system on July 7, 2019 at approximately 3 a.m. Number 4, notice of claim from Nora J. Harris of 317 Lord Street, amending the original notice of claim submitted on March 4, 2019. Number 5, notice of claim from Timothy and Mary Wallawender of 24 Wright Park Drive for damages, alleged damages to their finished basement and sleeping quarters due to city sewer backup on July 7, 2019 at approximately 3:30 a.m. Number 6, notice of claim from Florence T. Seibart of 33 Wright Park Drive for alleged damages to goods and costs of cleanup and basement due to flooding sewer backup on July 7, 2019 at approximately 6 a.m. Number 7, notice of claim from Tina Novelli of 426 East Cedar Street for alleged damages to property and personal belongings due to flooding in basement and yard on July 6, 2019 at approximately 1 a.m. Notice of claim from Tracy Simmons of 133 South Margay Street for alleged damages caused by a city sewer storm drains backing up in her basement at approximately 3 a.m. on July 7, 2019.
Okay, grouping all of these together, I'm looking for one motion to refer these to the Law Department.
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first.
Second.
Councilman Civiletto with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Voisin.
Aye. Number 9.
Number 9, invitation from Pastor Pablo Arvida of the Assembly of Christian Churches Incorporated, 316 Eagle Street, to Mayor Rosas and his administrative board to attend an event they are sponsoring for the community on August 31st, 2019, from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. Hot dogs, a closed giveaway, and free haircuts will be provided, as well as the preaching of the gospel.
The pastor is not seeking anything from the city or permission for anything from the city, so this will just be received as an invitation and received and filed.
Correct.
Number 10.
Invitation from John Doles of the Beach House Grill to Mayor Rosas and the City Common Council members to attend the Beach Bash on August 11, 2019, and permission to use a 40 by 20 tent for VIPs.
Mr. Dulce is seeking permission to use a 40 by 20 tent. Any discussion?
Is there a time he wants us to be there? Or just any time during Beach Bash?
Yeah, we'll have to find that out. Any further discussion? Need a motion to refer to the appropriate departments as well as approve, subject to appropriate insurances and usual conditions.
So moved.
Councilman Williams with the first, Councilman Bamanto with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Silverletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Voisin.
Aye.
Number 11, request from Jose A. Rodriguez to host the 6th Annual Missing You Always Memorial Co-ed Softball Tournament on Saturday, August 10, 2019, at the Dunkirk City Parks and Fields.
Any discussion, council? Councilman Bamanto?
Yes, every year they do a benefit tournament, and this year it's going to be the same time as the Beach Bash, so that'll be a nice compliment to our Beach Bash. I think this year's benefit is for Mr. Salgado and his family that just recently passed away.
Any further discussion? Seeking a motion to refer to the appropriate departments as well as approve, subject to appropriate insurances and usual conditions. Councilman Bamanto with the first.
Second.
Councilman Williams with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Silverletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Voisin.
Aye. Number 12?
Number 12, request from Monica Peña to have a bounce house from Bounce About Inflatables at the Cook's Pavilion of Point Gratiot on Sunday, August 4th, 2019.
Richard, you want to explain this real quick on why it's post-event?
Sure. So, my understanding is Ms. Pena reached out to the county council members towards the tail end of last week after we had already done the letters from the last cycle in the council meeting. Just requested permission to do the bounce house. I believe the council informally all agreed to it. It wasn't a big deal. She supplied the necessary insurance certificates to the city clerk's office. So this is merely just a ratification to make it official that the council approved of the event.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Any further discussion? Need a motion to refer this to the appropriate departments as well as approve, subject to appropriate insurances, usual conditions. Councilman Bamanto with the first.
Second.
Councilman Williams with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Silverletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Voisin.
Aye. We have 2 loudspeaker applications before us. There were no questions or concerns during the workshop, so we're going to group both of those together for one motion and one vote. Clerk?
Heather McIntyre to use a microphone and loudspeakers at the Brooks Locomotive Works Pavilion at Point Gratiot on August 22nd, 2019, from 4 p.m. till 8 p.m. for a fundraiser for Raíces. B, the Assembly of Christian Churches Incorporated to use speakers, microphone, and instruments during an outdoor church service at 314 Eagle Street on Saturday, August 31st, 2019, from 2 p.m. until 6 p.m.
Any discussion, council? Looking for a motion to refer to the appropriate departments as well as approve, subject to appropriate insurances and usual conditions.
So moved.
Councilman Civiletto with the first.
Second.
Councilman Williams with the second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Silverletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at Large Voisin.
Aye. Reports of standing committees, boards, and commissions. Before we begin with Councilman Williams, I'm going to give the floor to Assessor Malechko. He has an announcement to make.
Yeah, approximately 90 citizens in the city of Dunkirk will be receiving notices about their enhanced star exemption. Basically, the state's come up with a new way of issuing this program, and they're basically auditing all these, and they're seeing something they don't like. This afternoon, we had a representative from the state in. She shed some light on a couple of them, but that's not the vast majority of them. So if you get a letter, follow the instructions to the T. There's nothing we can do to help you here. You got to follow whatever the instructions are on the letter. And every letter is just a little different. They're looking for something different on every parcel. If you need some guidance, give us a call. I don't know what we can do. Maybe get you a different phone number or something, but it's out of our hands. Basically, the state's taking over more and more of this exemption policy, and it's become a nightmare.
Okay, thank you, Assessor Malechko. Councilman Williams, the floor is yours.
Randy, that rain event on July 7th, we got a lot of rain in a short period of time. Is there anything, one of the key things that a lot of the ones in the first ward that have called me about any of the issues that they had at their house, a lot of the things that they said were they haven't had the flooding that they've had in the last year for the previous 30 years. Is there anything that's going on with the work at the wastewater plant that could be contributing to the backup of everything to be going in the houses? That's the big question that they keep asking. I figure I'll ask you and find out what you may think of it.
No, thanks for asking. I can see that they might think that because of the time synchronity of the events, but the event was a rain cell. Sometimes those are tragic. We have one coming up, the 40th anniversary of a rain cell where we got 6 inches of rain in Canada Creek and Arkwright, and it actually cost the life of a firefighter. We're going to pay a tribute to that firefighter in a couple days. This rain cell wasn't 6 inches, it was 2.8 inches. It happened, it's on the National Weather Service rain gauge at the Dunkirk Airport, County Airport at Dunkirk. And between the hours of 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., there were 2.8 inches of rain that came down. My understanding is that 2.8 inches came down in about 15 minutes. If you look on the graphs of the probability of that happening, it's on average, it would happen once in a century. The highway structures are designed for 10-year events. To design for a 1% event would be extremely expensive. So highway things are designed for 10-year events. Anything more severe than that is going to flood the roads. Anyone who was out at 3 o'clock in the morning, like myself and the police department and fire department, and so if you had a few public works, saw that Route 5 was completely flooded. Most of the First Ward area was flooded. It was an extreme event. Hyde Creek was over its banks. So a very rare event. The source of the water was not at the wastewater treatment plant. The source of the water was approximately located over the northern Chautauqua County Airport in Sheridan. So even though that we are working on a wastewater plant, the two incidents were not related. We did have an incident last summer that was related to the wastewater plant, but this particular one was a very rare event, very isolated cell.
All right, thank you. That clears it up. I know that, like I said, several of the ones that were calling about that day were worried, thinking that this was going to be something that was going to happen a lot. That explains a lot of it. Thank you. Also that day is when I learned that there was a problem with the National Fuel getting into the state sewer drain out on the east end on Lakeshore Drive. Have we contacted them to fix that yet?
We have, and it's a state-owned drain. The state inspector is going to come and meet with me in a couple weeks or sooner, and then I'll let the state take the lead on that and enforce National Fuel fixing that. What happens is there's a technology called directional drilling. Rather than open cut excavation, so you know exactly what you're doing, you can drill a pipe underground directionally, and they happen to get into the state storm drain, and there's an 8-inch high pressure gas main that essentially ruined the state storm drain, and we were able to identify that during that event. That event allowed us to learn some things, and we will report that to National Fuel and to the state, and we will get that fixed.
All right, and then I also want to know what exactly is going on over with the city streets barns on Lucas Avenue. The last 2 months, June's DPW committee meeting and July's DPW committee meeting was scheduled to be there so that we could meet with the neighbors to find out what their issues and concerns were with the way things go on there and how it might disrupt their neighborhood. And both times we were told that the building was being looked at by by PESH, and that it was not safe to have people there yet. We've had that building open to the public every day, except for the 2 days that we want to have a meeting for about an hour and a half. So can you tell me what's going on there and what's being done so that we could have that meeting?
The person most qualified to answer that's not here tonight, the HR director. He's handling that inspection. We do allow the public into the recycling area and into some other areas, but the entire rest of the place, to my understanding, and again, the best person to answer this, so I'm going to give you my understanding, and I would defer to the actual facts to Mr. Campola, is that there is a review of that building, the entire building, with some details. One was the fire alarm system had to be redone. I don't have a certificate yet on the fire alarm system, so in that particular case, if it's things like that, then I wouldn't want people who don't know where the exits are to be in there without the fire alarm system working correctly. There could be other things on the list as well, but Mr. Campola could give you that. You probably have already been in touch with him on those details, so maybe you may know more about the specific details of that inspection than I do. But maybe, Vicki, have you talked to Mr. Campola about that inspection at all?
No, I've only spoken with him, and I know that that he's following up with it, but I don't have any final results on it.
Okay, I think that's the issue. We're waiting on the final results. We don't have that piece of paper.
So to the best of your knowledge, there's nothing that would prohibit us to have a stand-up outside meetings? Because basically, we wanted to meet with the neighbors to walk around outside to discuss the issues that may affect their everyday life on Lucas.
In my opinion, I totally agree with you. But I'm going to defer to Mr. Campola to make that final decision. I'm all for it. In fact, I'd like to showcase some of the positive things that have happened over there. The mayor was able to get a used street sweeper that's worth $250,000. We paid $30,000 for that, and we got it from a township in Pennsylvania. It's in excellent shape. It's a vacuum type street sweeper, so we now have 2 street sweepers we can put on the road at the same time, and they have different technologies, and they work really well together. We also were able to replace the stump grinder that had worn out. It was a 1990 something. The repair was going to cost $18,000 just for the parts. We were able to buy a much newer machine for a grand total of $13,000. So I'd like to show those things and a few other things that we've added. In addition to the negativity in the neighborhood, I'd like to, I'm sure we all would like to accentuate many of the positive things that are happening
Correct.
at the garage as well. So I'm all in favor of having a meeting there as soon as we get the green light from Mr. Campola.
So if we find out that we can't have an outdoor meeting, will we be shutting the barns down because it's that unsafe that we're not going to have anybody there?
I'm going to defer that question to Mr. Campola too. He would be able to answer point by point all of your questions right now, he's talked to me about it, but I am reluctant to speak for him. I could make a phone call to him right now. We could get him on speakerphone, and I could probably get your questions answered right now. If I had known about these questions ahead of time, I could have called him and had 1, 2, 3, 4, all of your questions answered right this minute. But I'm going to defer to him for the facts in case I might get something slightly wrong.
All right. I guess then that's all I have for today.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Williams. Councilman Bamanto?
Yes. Glenn, can you give us an update on 152 West 6th Street?
Yes. I've been working with the tenant who's leasing to own that house, Mr. Madero, since June. He's made a lot of progress in cleaning that up, especially around the swimming pool. He's got all the overgrowth off of it. He's got a good cover on there, and is making progress on his yard and swimming pool. You may have noticed that there has been a shipping container delivered to the driveway. I'm working with him to have that moved into the side yard so it's not in the front yard. We're treating it as if it was a permanent structure or a shed.
Is there a timetable where he has to move it from point A to point B?
He is trying to do that as soon as possible. He has to pay $200 to have the machine come move it. But we just had that agreement on Friday.
Great. Thank you for staying on this.
And while I have the floor, I just want to introduce our newest Housing Building Zoning Officer, Alan Gustafson. He comes to us from Gary. He's got 20 years experience in code enforcement. He's formerly of the city of Warren, and he most recently Brockton, Falconer, Celeron, Poland, Carroll, and Charlotte. I'd like to welcome him to Dunkirk.
I got a couple more announcements. A couple places where I attended this weekend. I was at the 10th annual Dunkirk, Fredonia, Manzini Alumni Golf Tournament, which my oldest brother Bill hosts that tournament with Mike Gershon. That proceeds for that tournament goes to the Dunkirk, Fredonia Little League Boys and Girls. They had 152 golfers, which I found out from Councilman Wallison, that's over what the usual limit, so they squeezed them in.
Yep.
And just kudos to my brother and that whole staff. They've been doing that for 10 years, and that helps out our community every year. Also, I attended the Dunkirk alumni picnic at the Point, and they had over 300 people there, which is, because I don't even know if anybody knew this was even happening. And they just keep getting bigger and bigger by word of mouth. And that, kudos to Mr. Eppolito for doing that. He runs that every year, and they just head up to the big pavilion and expand from there. And also, congratulations to Con Club for having their annual walleye tournament. That was well attended. They had a beautiful weekend. And the Lakeside Club had their annual outdoor picnic and live entertainment. And that was well attended also. There was a lot going on in the city. Also, I encourage everyone to come down to the Beach Bass this weekend. And the weekend after that, we're having a boat race, which starts on Friday the 16th with a parade and goes on the 17th and 18th. And I'd like to ask Mayor Rosas if he could, since we won't have a meeting before that, if he can elaborate on that and give us an update.
On Friday, the 16th, there will be a parade, and the boats, I believe they're lining up, coming on 6th Street and then down Central. And Saturday and Sunday, there's going to be races. Again, this year, we anticipate to have twice as many racers as we did last year. But there will be activities going on all 3 days, and the VIP location is going to be at Katerina's, which is right above Dimitri's, and that'll be going on Saturday and Sunday.
Mr. Mayor, do you have a time when the parade is starting, approximately?
I'm not exactly sure of the time, but
We'll put it out.
we'll be putting it out there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Bramano. Mr. Heenan, floor is yours.
Thursday morning, there's a memorial mass and a monument rededication for Daniel Anson. And as was spoken at the privilege of the floor about the curbs and the streets, I'm hoping that Mr. Woodbury and Mayor Roses, or he would direct the DPW, as you go down the brick sidewalk there, there's silt, moss, overgrowth of weeds. I'm hoping maybe that's something that can be cleaned up before the rededication center. You may or may not know what I'm talking about if you've driven through there, you've seen it.
The DPW was part of the reconstruction of that monument. We're very much involved in helping the firefighters pay tribute to our lost firefighter, Mr.
Thank you.
Hanson.
I'm sure they'd be very appreciative of it. Thank you. Richard, I have a question for you, and I may know the answer, but maybe I don't know it well enough. On the city property that's owned or leased or land leased, would every person who has one of those, be it a tenant, have the city as additionally insured? Would that be correct? On most. And besides the obvious additionally insured, when you say that, the city still has it insured, the property, I'm guessing, just as we spoke recently about other stuff, from the boardwalk to the marina to the land lease for the Clarion and so on. What does additionally, I mean, when they say that, does that mean it's insured by a certain percentage, or?
So the city, anything that's city-owned falls under the city's own insurance policy.
Right.
But then when you have a lessee, they get you a certificate of additional insurance, which means their own carrier. Essentially, it's like if you gave an analogy to residential insurance, it's renters versus owners insurance.
Right.
So the renter's insurance gives an additional layer of insurance to their own carrier. Essentially, so if something were to happen, it doesn't necessarily just fall on the city. For example, we just had the summons and complaint from the Bowen lawsuit versus the city and the owners of the tent. There, you're going to be dealing with the city's insurance carrier. They're going to be dealing with the carrier of insurance for the tent company and the individual's name. So that's something where, again, those multiple layers of policy help protect all involved when you have an incident like that.
And would that be as if the city's additionally insured, would that be up to like 100% of it? Like,
Usually, it depends on the situation. So usually, in most situations, for example, there's an event, we ask for at least $1 million policy. On the larger properties, such as Clarion and what have you, that's going to be a significantly larger dollar amount in terms of what the total policy coverage is. So it's a scale issue. Depends on the scale of the property.
and like you mentioned, if there was a lawsuit, there are going to be a line of them, just as we just saw in that summons earlier with probably
Right.
4 different names on there.
Right.
And so on. Okay, thank you. Now, I just recently became aware at the last finance meeting that we are in a, I'll call it a partnership for a better word, an 80-20 partnership with the Marina and Mr. Pringle for a weed harvester. I'm sure there was some type of agreement made with that. I know that if it's a contract, I somewhat think that an agreement is a contract. Of why this contract or this agreement did not go through city council. And
There was no formal contract in that I'm aware of. I believe it was just done as an equipment purchase, which is sort of a standard operating thing. There was nothing that came through my office in that regard. I didn't review any contracts in that issue.
And what do we do moving forward with this? That, as I just spoke about the insurance, let's say that we're 80% owner of this piece of equipment, and the Marina's 20% owner of the equipment. And their employees go out, they use it, something happens. I'm not looking at the most drastic of all things, but it's another boat and so on. I won't get into the more horrific type of things. Does that leave the city 80% responsible?
No,
of
the ownership
20%?
ratios don't have anything to do with the insurance coverage. It's 2 separate issues. So essentially, it would fall under both policies, both the carrier for the city and the carrier for the lessee marina operator. That has no bearing on terms of fault or which policy covers more. It's just going to be a question of fact in those kind of different situations.
I guess my other problem is having somebody other than a city employee on a piece of equipment that we own 80% of, which is $40,000 worth, I believe, and the marina having $10,000 worth of it. I think it really puts us in a bad position. I know that as of last meeting, I was told that we don't have anybody trained for it, but it just strikes me funny that that's the ratio. And
Well, in every of those leases that we have an indemnification clause, which essentially states that whether it's the lessor or the lessee, if their employees or agents of are negligent in any way, the burden falls on them in order to dealing with any liability with any potential accident that comes of that. And that's independent of the ownership ratio. Like I said, it's 2 different issues.
And if we don't have a contract, or it's not a formal contract, what do we do for maintenance, and what do we do to get our people trained so that our people are the only people using it? And how do we split the insurance on it? I mean, we have the city insurance, obviously, but are they covered for $1 million, $2 million? Is it more?
I'd have to look at their certificate of insurance.
Okay.
I'm sure it's at least $1 million. How much more than that, I do not know offhand. And again, in terms of that would be at the discretion of the administrator. So if that falls under DPW, that would be Randy and his shop determining who gets trained. Again, I was involved in that purchase, so whether there was any kind of warranty purchased or any kind of service agreement, I don't know. Usually those kind of go with something that, especially something that's that big of a capital expense.
Well, I guess I'd like to look into it further, and I won't beat it up much more right at this moment, but there needs to be some type of maintenance agreement. There needs to be, I think, an agreement in full with them for the responsibilities. I'm not an attorney, but it just seems that that's the way something would go down. If somebody is sharing the same piece of equipment, that there needs to be some type of contract.
But just to give you an analogy, Councilmember, it's similar to when the county and the city do shared service agreements on certain public works projects, Central Avenue being an example of that from last summer, where we paved some of the corners, they did most of the milling and paving, and so sometimes you're going to have shared use of equipment, shared use of employees. I'm sure Councilmember Williams can speak to that on some of the projects he's been involved in as part of his job. And usually in a case like that, you're gonna have coverage through the county and the city. So
And-
it's the same principle applies here. The lessor and the lessee both have insurance coverage. So
And I agree with that, it's just that this is a private corporation, this isn't shared services with another municipality.
but they're both insured.
Okay.
The bottom line is the insurance. I
Well, I just
understand what
want
you're
to,
saying. Yeah,
I just want to put it out there, and then we can talk more later about it, but I just wanted to get it out there, so.
right.
Thank you very much.
That also?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Heenan. Councilman Civiletto?
I just wanted to say there won't be a public safety committee meeting this month. We are doing them every other month, and we had one last month. Just wanted to add to Ms. Campola's concern about Central. I think Main Street being a main corridor coming in, we should look at getting that weed-eated to basically the grass that's coming out of the curbs and stuff like that, just so it looks good on the way in. Want to do a couple of announcements for things that are coming up. The Adams is having an international art exhibit, but not just the regular type of art. You're talking about drawers and architects and different types of art. On Saturday the 10th from 6 to 8. That's at 600 Central Avenue. And that weekend is also the Fourth Ward Polka Dance. When is that the 11th?
That's the 11th, yes.
The 11th?
At St. Hedwig's Church,
At St.
Blessed Mary
Hedwig's,
Angela
yep.
Parish.
So it's in my ward, so I want to
Sunday.
plug that.
One day, yes.
And the weekend of the boat races, the Lighthouse is also having an event at their grounds as well. So there's going to be, it's basically a children's festival. So we'll be showing, I say we because I'm on the board, we'll be showing Pete's Dragon because it deals with, there's a lighthouse in it and it's on the water. So they thought it would be a really cool movie to show. But there's going to be activities all throughout the day for that and great viewing for the boat being on the point like it is. And I think that might be it. I just wanted to ask, when is this rededication to Daniel Hansen?
Thursday morning, 7 o'clock.
This Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because Daniel was on my father's softball team, the Quality Bakery softball team back in the 70s, and holds a special place in my family's heart. So I'll make sure that I'm there. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you,
One more thing. I'm sorry. Just wanted to mention that the committee act, or I'm sorry, the Citizens Advisory Committee, which is a standing committee, also sent all of us, being the councilmen, a report about recommendations for our internet site and how we can improve it, change it, and also possibly which committee it may fall under. I just wanted that to be in the record that we all got those reports and that we should all seriously take those into consideration. That's it.
Thank you, Councilman Civiletto. Mayor or Rebecca, whoever wants to take credit for this one, I'm really not sure, but I've received a lot of compliments and I've seen a lot of social media positive notes about the flags up and down Central Avenue, the new maroon flags combined with the American flags, combined with the potted plants, and people are taking pictures just of the avenue and posting them on social media. So I wanted to say thank you to whichever one of you two is responsible for the addition of the maroon flags, because something as small as that, so many people have noticed and talked about and mentioned. So it's the small things like that that usually get overlooked. So I wanted to say thank you for that. Rebecca, some clarification. The peer project, now, I didn't know exactly how to answer this question. So the peer project is only one part of the entire grant that we received for 2.3 million, correct? 2.5 million. So the pier itself didn't cost $2.5 million? No. Okay. Can you give me a quick breakdown off the top? I know I'm asking you on a whim here, but.
Our contract is for 1.6 for the pier. And we've got Central Avenue, off the top of my head, I think it's 600,000, and then Charles Pringle's private project is a portion of that as well. So
Okay,
there's
so the
3
pier itself was
projects
not the
within that.
2.5, it was only the...
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify that as well, because other people are saying, well, geez, it doesn't, I'm not a pier builder, but it doesn't look like $2.5 million. So
No,
I'm like, no, it
it's
wasn't,
not.
that was only a slice of the pie,
Yep.
so. And last meeting, Richard and the mayor and myself, we had a little discussion about the marina and the docks down there. That caught a little leverage in the press this past week as well. You did mention during that meeting, though, that you guys did receive prior notice, and I rewatched the meeting just to make sure this afternoon. Do you have a copy of that prior notice? Because I asked you for it during that meeting to have it ready for me. On the public safety issue of the docks themselves, you said you said in the meeting you received prior notice.
Yeah, I received a phone call that came in through my secretary, Carol. So I don't have any documentation of it, but I do have I believe that she keeps her notes. And if you need a sworn, something sworn by both of us, I'm sure that she'd be more than willing to do that.
Okay, I don't need to go that far. I was just, because I looked at the actual prior notices, the legal prior notices that we received, and I went all the way back to 1978. And obviously, there's nothing there as far as us receiving prior notice.
That's official prior written notice is something written that goes through the clerk's office.
Correct.
So that, it's a term of art. So in this case, I think he's talking about somebody made a complaint. He's not saying.
Okay, just a telephone complaint
Right.
then. Okay, so not official prior notice. Okay. That is all I have. Oh, yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Woodbury?
Yeah, I would like to also thank Rebecca and the mayor and everybody about beautiful streetscape. I noticed today that Google was in town. Google's streetscape truck was driving up and down Central Avenue. They do it about every 3 years to update what it used to look like, what it looks like now. So if you were looking out your window waving, next time Google updates its street view thing, you're going to see today on Google Streetscape. And I agree with you. It looks beautiful. And I'd like to add my thanks to the Parks Division for keeping those plants watered and for Revitalize Dunkirk for supplying those plants. It really does look fantastic.
Yeah, it does. Central Avenue looks great. Hopefully we can get some more business down there now. I don't have anything else. There is no unfinished business. We'll move right along to pre-filed resolutions. Number 73.
Resolution authorizing budget line modifications for fiscal year 2019.
Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Silverado.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Vorsham.
Aye.
74, resolution authorizing lease to purchase one vehicle for police department through local government town bid 2019-013.
Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Silverado.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Vorsham.
Aye.
75, resolution accepting electrical contract change orders for water treatment plant consent order improvements, and there was an amendment.
There is a typo in that resolution.
I'm sorry, typo.
In the fourth whereas, second from last line, it currently reads $224,775, and it should read $244,775. So it's 244, not 224. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto.
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan.
Aye.
Councilmember Silverado.
Aye.
Councilmember at-large Vorsham.
Aye.
Number 76, resolution setting effective date of proposed local law and referendum to change terms of Dunkirk council members from 2 years to 4 years if it were to pass.
Any discussion, council? Councilman Williams?
Yeah, this is just to set, if everybody remembers, a resolution to send to the public so the public can vote on whether the council terms stay at 2 years or go to 4 years, was passed twice by this council. And it failed to make the ballot last year. And because there was no election of council members last year, it didn't need an effective date. It would just automatically been effective now.
Actually, it still would.
It still would have? Okay.
It just wouldn't have had an immediate effect because we were in an off year.
Gotcha. All right. And then, and now this year, since it is an election year, we need to set the effective date. Trying to talk to my fellow council members, we couldn't all agree on when that effective date should be. So, just for the sake of moving this forward to see what happens with it, where it goes, what happens, so that, basically, I don't expect this to pass tonight. And if this does not pass tonight, then the former resolutions that were passed by council will be pretty much null and void. I'm sure just to clean up things, we're gonna need to do a resolution to rescind the previous resolutions. But also, I would like to say, if my fellow council members do not like the effective date that was listed in this one, feel free to make a motion to make an amendment to it. Again, my only thought on all of this, contrary to what the editor of the Observer wants to say, it's been not selfish. It's been so that everybody in the community gets to vote on it and have a say on this, not just the 5 of us sitting here today. So I would like to see this go to the public and actually vote on it. As it goes to the public to vote on, I'm going to be voting no on it in the voting booth. But I still feel that it should be put out to the public and let the public decide, not just 5 gentlemen here in the room here with the making the vote to say no, the entire city doesn't get to vote on it. So again, if my fellow council members don't want to give the city the choice to vote on this and vote this down and let it die, then that's your choice. If you want to change it to a different date, make an amendment. Otherwise, I guess enough said with that, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Any further discussion? I'm just going to add, I agree with Councilman Williams on the majority of the things he had to say about it. I don't see how this is actually selfish of us, since we're letting the public decide things and putting it up for public vote, and how this could be selfish of me, since I'm letting the public vote on something when I'm not even going to feel the effects of it. So how is it actually being selfish of me when I vote yes or no? I don't necessarily agree with going to 4-year terms. I've said that from the beginning. But then again, let's leave it up to the public. Maybe the public wants the 4-year terms. That's all I am saying and voting for, is to give the public the opportunity and the say. It's not many opportunities or chances that the public has a vote in something on the ballot that affects the elected officials, besides who's elected themselves. So let's let the public decide. That's basically as simple as it gets for me. So I'm going to vote yes for it today. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
No.
Councilmember Heenan?
No.
Councilmember Civiletto?
No.
Councilmember at large Wilwasham?
Yes. Resolution fails. Any walk-ins, new business? Motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry, Chief Ortolano?
Sorry, I'm getting here late. Just want to remind everyone, tomorrow night's National Night Out, 6:30 in Washington Park, Police Department, Fire Department. It'll be a great community night, and a lot of fun, so everybody come out and enjoy it with us.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Heenan?
I forgot, I did mention this in the workshop, I didn't mention it, but there will not be an economic development meeting this week.
Thank you, Councilman Heenan. Any walk-ins, resolutions, motion to adjourn?
So move.
Councilman Williams with the first.
Second.
Councilman Civiletto with the second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Councilmember Bamanto?
Aye.
Councilmember Heenan?
Aye.
Councilmember Civiletto?
Aye.
Councilmember at large Wilwasham?
Aye. Meeting adjourned.